Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Northern Lights, Canadian Women in Tech and Business, where we highlight the incredible journeys of inspiring women who are shaping the future of technology and businesses in Canada. Today, we have the honor of speaking with another trailblazer, Laura McGee. Laura McGee is the founder and CEO of Diversio, a Toronto-based technology company that uses machine learning to help companies overcome diversity challenges. Laura was recognized as one of Canada's top 25 women of influence in 2017. Laura spent much of her career at McKinsey and Company, where she advised private and public sector clients on talent strategy, including diversity and inclusion. She led the firm's support for the Canada-US Council for Advancement of Women, the Economic Advisory Council, and multiple private sector clients. She also co-authored diversity research and partnered with Lean In and the Wall Street Journal. Outside of work, Laura co-founded the hashtag Go Sponsor Her movement and Summit Leaders, a nonprofit that inspires low-income students to build the next billion-dollar businesses. She is a frequent contributor to publications like The Globe and Mail and Maclean's Magazine. Laura, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you.
Thanks, Berlin. Delighted to be here.
Perfect. I was thinking maybe we could just start with you sharing with us your journey from McKinsey and Company to founding Diversio. What would you say was the inspiration to take the leap into the tech industry and focus on diversity challenges?
It's funny, thinking back, it feels like it's been decades. I guess it was about 6 years ago. But the quick background, I actually, prior to consulting, was a lawyer. I knew that pretty quickly that wasn't the career for me, and it was partly because it felt too confined. And I really thrive in ambiguity. I like opportunity. I like freedom to pursue new ideas. And so that is a trait that I was able to develop at McKinsey in a consulting firm. There was more opportunity to find new clients and new projects and think outside the box. And so that skill set of, having an idea and then convening a team and getting people excited to execute, I knew that that was something I really enjoyed doing. And even though I wasn't, a serial entrepreneur, hadn't started a business, I could see that that career path was a fit for my personality. So that was
Mhm.
kind of the initial, self-growth, self-learning experience that I went through. In terms of the actual company platform, the idea, how it happened is I ended up doing a lot of work in human capital and workforce at McKinsey. And so working with governments, for example, on how do they grow their economies through diversity and inclusion, working with companies, how do they become more productive and engaged with their employees. And what really struck me, I'm a data person. I love kind of metrics and numbers. It struck me that this diversity and inclusion topic was at the top of every company's priority list. It was on everybody's website. But we kept hearing, I don't know how to do it. Super tactically, I have no data, I have no targets, I have no metrics. And so it was an area of business that wasn't being treated like a business. It was
Mhm.
very much kind of wishy-washy. Um, and so the idea here was, could we apply the technology thesis that had, done wonders in areas like marketing and operations and, sales, and apply that to people, apply
Mhm.
that to culture. So think about what metrics would help you measure how inclusive your workplace is.
Mhm.
And then how could you use artificial intelligence to take that data and then predict what solutions might improve the metrics?
Mhm.
And so that kind of the idea of the technology overlay, like that was nothing new. It was just a new application.
Mhm.
So the idea was, okay, we have a big, big, big problem. I would argue one of the biggest opportunities globally in business today, which is how do we get more people into the workforce, more productive, more engaged, happier, more likely to stick
Mhm.
around and, promote and advocate for their company. Um, and we have this, incredible advancement in artificial intelligence. For us, it was NLP, so natural language processing, where you can
Mhm.
process free text and get a lot of really great feedback. And so the idea was basically big problem, which is, we need more people. And then incredible solution, which is powered by AI. How can we put them together?
Mhm.
So that was kind of the genesis of the company.
That's so great to hear, and really interesting to see how you use technology to kind of weave that into solving those diversity challenges. So I was thinking maybe you could just kind of add on a little bit more on why would you say diversity is so important in the tech world, and how does Diversio address this question?
So I think diversity is important in every world.
Mhm,
Certainly technology as an industry could use more of it, but
mhm,
it's interesting in our client base, technology is only a small proportion of our customers. We're equally powerful in auto manufacturing and energy infrastructure and, you know, the legal industry close to my
mhm,
heart. And at the end of the day, if you are a company that is trying to be innovative, which, at this point, every company is, you need great people. That is your greatest asset, is smart people who learn how to work together, think about new industries, new products, new markets. And if you don't have access to talent, there's no way that you're going to keep up.
mhm.
And so the best way to do that is to increase your talent pool that you're drawing from. And so that's where diversity and then I think more importantly, inclusion comes into play.
That's great to hear. And, congratulations on all of your success. Um, it's really incredible. And kind of just relating to that, being recognized as one of Canada's top 25 women of influence in 2017 is such a significant achievement. So, how does this recognition impact your career and your mission at Diversio?
It's an honor and a privilege, but I don't know. I think at the end of the day, you go into the office, you work with a bunch of great people, and you
Mhm.
come up with solutions to problems. And it's nice to be recognized, but I'm surrounded by women that I think are much more influential than I am, including many of our interns. So I think it's a great way to elevate women because often we tend to be, I would say, too humble and not as self-promotional. So I think recognitions are good for that purpose, but at the end of the day, it's really about the team.
That's so nice to hear. I was thinking, just, how incredible that is to get an achievement like that. I mean, it's really great to see how all of your hard work has just, paid off. It must be really nice to, get recognized for that. Um, so now just kind of leading on, what are some of your future goals and aspirations you have for Diversio, and how do you see that company evolving in the next 5 years?
That's such a good question because quite frankly, the way that it went the past 5 years, I never could have never could have guessed there'd be, a global pandemic and then a massive social movement and
Right.
then a potential recession that never happened. And then, so it's really been quite a wild ride. Look, our vision actually has not changed. And our vision is we want to create the world's leading platform to help companies become more inclusive. And we believe that is the best way to improve their performance.
Mhm,
So for us, it's very much provide the tools that companies can use to outperform and, in the process, create a much better working environment for way more people. So that's
mhm,
that's really the vision. And the way that we've been doing this is growing globally. And so we've got an office in London, UK at this point, and one in New York. So we've
mhm.
got kind of our core markets covered. We do a lot of work in the Middle East. We do a lot of work in APAC. We've started doing more work in Latin America. And so we'll continue to grow internationally and also grow into different industries. And part of kind of a new part of our strategy is we have been fairly acquisitive, which means we just bought a company a few months ago in the training space, which is really exciting. Looking at a couple others in actually overseas. So looking to build out that platform end to end, whether it's ourselves and our team innovating or whether it's partnering with other companies.
That's really great to hear. And I think our listeners would really like to know. So you co-founded the hashtag Go Sponsor Her movement. Can you tell us a little bit more about this initiative and its impact on advancing women's careers?
I did. It was such a formative experience. My other co-founder was Megan Anderson, who I still have so much respect and admiration for. I mean, look, for me, it's a cause. Obviously, I'm passionate about it, which is making sure that women assume their rightful place as leaders. But also for me, it was probably the first moment that I had an idea that I thought could be really big, and then I just went for it despite being super nervous and very shy and really honestly like a little bit scared, and then it worked. And I've had
That's so
20
nice.
ideas that didn't work, so it's not like they're all like, but it was that kind of validation, like, oh my gosh, I have it in me.
Yeah,
That really gave me the courage to go and start Diversio and quit my job and really put my life at stake.
that's really great. I'm really, really curious to know, how do you balance your role as CEO, a nonprofit co-founder, and a frequent contributor to major publications? What strategies do you use to manage your time and those responsibilities?
You know what? I don't try to put too much, that's going to sound counterintuitive. I try not to put too much pressure on myself. And
Mhm.
there's moments where I'm struck by inspiration, like, published an op-ed recently in the Globe with Jerome Nice at BDC on AI and
Mhm.
funding going to women entrepreneurs. And I was inspired in the moment because I saw some data that was concerning and I had a thesis and reached out to Jerome and we wrote it and that was great. But I don't, have like a calendar where I say, okay, every month you must sit down and have an idea for an op-ed.
Yeah,
Um, and I don't, I try to make time for exercise every day if I can, and I try to sleep well. And then I find that makes me better able to think through opportunities. But um, I think you've got to follow your passion and if you're excited, you'll work hard. And so I try to stay excited.
that's great. I think that leads perfectly into my next question, which is what advice would you give to young women aspiring to make a mark in the tech and business industries? And are there any particular challenges you face that you think that they should be prepared for?
So I have a really specific piece of advice, which is going to sound strange. Um, Try to get rejected as much as you possibly can. Especially when you're young. And the reason I say that is I think my co-founder and I laugh about this. We have rejection amnesia, which means if we, make a pitch or we, reach out to someone to partner and they ignore us or they ghost us or they flat out say no, like it doesn't affect us personally.
Hmm.
And that's not until I was probably 25, I was personally affected if somebody said no to me.
Right.
And I found that my ego, my pride was really getting in the way of me taking risk because I felt bad.
Hmm.
And I had an epiphany. I was about 25 where I was like, that's not actually rational because you don't really lose anything. If it's just that you'll feel bad, you're not out anything. And
Hmm.
so if the downside is zero, you should almost always take the risk.
Hmm.
And so I started to think about it in that way. But it takes a few no's to get over it. So that's
Yeah.
my advice.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And, it's difficult to not take things personally, but at the end of the day, it's their loss, right? Like it's not to be taken personally, and it really shows that you should really just persevere and go for it.
I would
Um,
also, sorry, I would
yeah,
also
go
add
ahead.
to that, people have very short memories. And we
Yeah,
really learned that early on. Like
yeah,
we had, pitches that we made, the companies come, it's gone in a million directions and early versions of the product where, we would go and we'd sell it and then they'd come back 6 months later and be like, hey, we want your product. We'd be like, that doesn't exist anymore.
yeah,
And then
exactly.
they forget and move on. So yeah,
Yeah,
that was a lesson as well.
that's really great. Now, what do you see as some of the most exciting opportunities and trends in the Canadian tech ecosystem over the next decade?
I think that we have some of the best talent. And
Yeah.
I was joking about this at Collision. So I technically live in New York and our company is technically headquartered in New York. And we had these big dreams. We raised from a big San Francisco VC firm when we did our Series A, and we really thought, of course, we'll move to the US. Like, of
Hmm.
course, that's what every, startup does after they get funded. And I have not been able to make the case for it. And it's not, I mean, I'm inclined to Canada. I love Canada, so I'm not trying that hard, but the economics and the commercials, it's like we have fantastic talent in Toronto. It's
Hmm.
a really tight-knit community that's very helpful for one another. And so it just doesn't make sense to try to set up an office in Austin or certainly not San Francisco. So I think as long as we keep developing that talent and the community keeps really rallying, like this Team Canada approach,
Hmm.
I think world's our oyster.
That's amazing. I have one last question for you, and I really love this question because I feel like everyone has a different answer to it. What legacy do you hope to leave in the tech and business world, and how do you want to be remembered?
I really do. I want non-traditional people to start companies and believe that they can do it. And I
Yeah.
want to kind of cut my personal mission is there's this idea that you can't start a tech company unless you have a tech background or unless you have a technical co-founder.
Hmm.
I do not have an engineering background. I don't even have a business background, and neither does my co-founder.
Wow.
And we have really cutting edge artificial intelligence at the core of our product. And it from the beginning, we partnered with universities. We, trained algorithms from the ground up, and we just figured it out. So the legacy I would like to leave is I'd like to, hopefully demonstrate that you can do it, even if you don't look traditional, and just
Hmm.
if you have the passion and you're scrappy.
Thank you so much for your time today, Laura. I love that answer. Um, it sounds like you've had such an incredible career that you're, still continuing. And hearing your story is just so inspiring. How you, are taking tech and solving diversity challenges is probably going to change the world and, is paving the way for other young women to do that as well. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much.